But this is really fun. I actually have to say, the other day I was walking and then I listened to your podcast.
Yay.
It was a fun experience because I kind of feel like I was walking with you. So
Yeah.
So wait, which
Oh,
episode was it?
that was the one about test anxiety, the one that you recently, yeah, added.
See?
And I really love your story at the beginning. Yeah.
I told you. I told you it's good stuff.
it's fine. I can live with it. I do think it's very funny, and I think it's funnier when I object to it. So,
It's our shtick, I think. It hasn't intentionally been a shtick, but it is a shtick. So actually, Melis, I have a fun story for you.
Yeah.
Um, so remember when we saw each other on Monday and I said I was going to bring books for the Board of Trustees to join our reading group, right? So I spoke and Lizzie is making an entrance today. Um, I spoke and then gave them the books, and then the president emailed me afterwards to say, it's so awesome everything that y'all are doing in the TCC. And then she said that the author or one of the editors is like her very good friend, Dr. Wren. And I was like,
Oh, wow.
and then I replied and I was like, what a small world. Melis has just invited Dr. Wren to come June 5th. And she was like, oh, I want to be there. So,
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
right?
And Dr. Ran is so excited about that. And then,
Yay.
yeah, so yeah, that's so exciting. It's a small world. Yeah.
Right?
There's a lot of Michigan connections. Yeah.
Michigan
I
is
think
a weird state, right? Oh,
Yeah.
God.
that's true. I was gonna say, I think when you're in a certain discipline, like you just kind of know people in a bunch of different places.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I know people in the physics department in like Kansas. Like, it's just like a strange thing. It's just you meet people at
Mhm.
conferences.
Do you guys have nemesis? Like people?
Yes.
Yeah. Who is your well, you don't have to no
No.
names, but like why is someone who is your profession? Tell me something. I'm curious now.
I think so. What's really funny is I don't even know if this person knows who I am.
That's the
Um,
best.
I know it's very fun. But they like just did they wrote a paper once with a particular framework, and I don't want to give too many details because then there's like too much information.
Mhm.
Um, but I was just like, I don't think that this is right. Like, I think that this can be done better. Like,
Okay.
and then it was just kind of one of those things where it's just like this person's name was kind of on everything, and I'm just like, this feels like overkill and like
Gotcha.
unnecessary. Yeah,
Oh, did you
just my
ever
own personal vendetta.
so no academic fisticuffs?
Um, yes,
Come on,
but
really?
yeah, it was a very long paper, and I don't even know how many people actually read it. So
Melis, you're so nice. Do you have a nemesis somewhere?
I don't know. I can't say that. Just
um,
the world is a little bit super creepy and super small sometimes.
yeah,
Okay.
You kind of felt that vibe. Yeah.
Amanda's trying to get us in trouble.
Well, my nemesis, who I didn't even know I was his nemesis, retired last year. So, like, I'm taking applications, is what I'm saying. So,
Oh, right, I know who this is.
yeah, you both know who
Yeah,
this
we both
is.
know who this is.
Yes. Um,
Yeah, this is not anybody we work with for
Oh,
clarification.
yeah.
So
no,
it's
no.
only a problem if we get famous and these
Correct.
things come out later.
I think we've been vague enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you again so much for agreeing to join us today. This is going to be so much fun.
Oh, sure. Anytime. Thanks for including me. So I'm looking forward for this experience. I never done a podcast before, so this is gonna be a learning curve for me for sure.
It'll be
We didn't either until we did.
Yeah. But
very
you're
true.
famous. Yeah.
Not at all.
Nope. Welcome to Coffee Break Classroom, brewed for higher ed, where teaching meets good vibes. We're just two friends chopping it up. Here you can expect a blend of ridiculous classroom stories, a little educational research, and some practical teaching techniques. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's talk teaching without the grading.
Well, welcome everybody to Coffee Break Classroom.
Today we're brewed for higher ed, and we have a super special guest, Dr. Melis Kural. Hi, Melis.
Hi everyone. How are y'all doing?
We're going to be talking about Melis's background and also restorative practices, I think is kind of our main topic because you've done a lot in that area. But we have our little bio that we wrote up for you, so we'll start this. For over a decade, Dr. Melis Kural has been a passionate advocate and leader in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion. With an MS and PhD in sociology from the University of Buffalo, Melis has built a career rooted in both academic excellence and transformative social impact. Her teaching portfolio includes courses on the sociology of diversity, social control and deviance, and introductory sociology, which she taught as an assistant professor at Duke College, where she inspired students to think critically about the structures that shape our society.
Melis then took her commitment to equity a step further by serving as the DEI program chair at SUNY Brockport, where she spearheaded initiatives that fostered inclusive campus culture and empowered underrepresented voices. Her transition to Monroe Community College's Teach and Creativity Center as coordinator marked a new chapter, one that we are incredibly fortunate to witness. At MCC, Melis has become a driving force behind faculty development, bringing her deep expertise and innovative spirit to every training session, workshop, and program that she designs.
Her enthusiasm for creating inclusive learning environments is matched by her credentials. She holds a certificate in diversity and inclusion from eCornell, underscoring her dedication to lifelong learning and professional growth. At MCC, she's known for integrating restorative practices into classroom strategies, enhancing faculty understanding of DEI principles in meaningful, actionable ways. Melis doesn't just coordinate presentations, conferences, book groups, and consultations. She co-facilitates MCC's first and second year faculty series with me, guiding new faculty through a rich landscape of effective teaching practices and inclusive pedagogy. Her work is not only impactful, it's transformative.
So this is my favorite part, like when we do our little creepy bio dig. If you think Melis is all work and no play, think again. Her scholarly contributions include publications such as, and I'm very curious about a lot of this, The Labor Motivation of Rural Women and Newly Developed Urban Satellites, The Case of Izmir, Turkey, and the motivation factors for tourists in the Finger Lakes regions in the Cayuga and Seneca wine trails, a testament to her intellectual curiosity and her global perspective.
Very diversified portfolio.
Very, very. Last year, Melis celebrated love and culture with two weddings, one in the US and one where she grew up in Turkey, a joyful reflection of her vibrant life. In short, Melis is anything. Oh, and this just before we got on, you gave us this little teaser that you were born in Australia, which we're absolutely going to get into. In short, Melis is anything but ordinary. She's a scholar, a change maker, and a colleague whose work continues to elevate and inspire all those around her. So welcome, Melis.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the generous bio. So I really appreciate that.
We just like to bring people on that we like so we can embarrass them.
Oh, thank you.
But I wasn't kidding. I do want to know about Australia. Tell us the story.
Sure. Yeah, so that's actually a very funny story. So, my dad completed his PhD in Australia in the University of New South Wales.
Cool.
And then my sister, my older sister, she was born there and she almost grew up there. So we have about 5 years in between us. And then, so after, my dad completed his PhD and, with my mom and with my family, then they decided to return to Turkey. So I was only 2 months old when,
Oh, wow.
my family returned to Turkey. And back then, so the immigration and the citizenship rights were a little bit more I'm limited in Australia, so in those conditions, because the laws have changed and I had to apply for a visa when I was only 2 months old. It was a fun story. So, but I'm so happy and I'm so blessed. So I grew up in Turkey. My entire family is actually, they're all in Turkey.
Wow. So how did you end up coming to the US then? How old were you?
So I was about 18 years old, and that was good coincidence and opportunity. So when I was a senior at the high school, the Turkish education system and the university placement system have changed, but education system in Turkey changes very frequently, so that was not something new.
Okay.
Um, and then I first thought that it was going to get harder to get university in Turkey, and
Oh,
in those time, then our high school counselor recommended that how about if you also apply for some colleges in in the United States. So I applied to SUNY Geneseo, and I got in. And first, the plan was, I will only stay there for about one semester or 1 year
oh
to
wow.
improve my English, but I'm still in this couch, so yeah.
That's awesome. I forgot you went to Geneseo. I'm also a proud grad. I feel like we've had this conversation.
Yeah, so
That's
I
awesome.
enjoy my time there, so that's for sure.
Awesome. So how do you think all of those experiences has sort of shaped you as a person? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's in a bunch of different ways, but what do you think?
I think it shapes me a lot. So the other day I was actually reflecting with my husband Jeff, and then I was just thinking about I see this world from the perspective of a bilingual person, right? So
Yeah.
I'm shaped by the Turkish values, but right now, as I'm, learning more about the American culture, then I'm trying to navigate this world more, right? So um, I would say that a lot of the time I see myself as one individual, but I try to navigate multiple culture and multiple world for sure. But that also creates a lot of opportunities and benefits to me. So I'm a good observant, so I always observe
Mm.
people about like how's their culture and how they are getting connected, and then so I can be objective and subjective in the same content. So that kind of makes me feel special in that way for sure.
That's fantastic. That's fun. I
That
like
yeah,
that.
that feels like there could be some fun offline conversations about what you think about the culture where we're
Oh
at.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and it is tough because I think the Turkish culture is very collective. And
Yeah.
then one thing that, again, maybe right now my husband at home, maybe that's the reason I'm teasing him a little bit on the podcast, but I have to. That's one of my fun always tease. So anytime, I talk with my family, my husband says, how do you even have a conversation? Because then from his perspective, it's almost like we are talking over each other. We are yelling, we are chaotic, right? So, but I think American culture is different. So it's more individualistic culture. But it all depends about who do you talk in the United States for sure. That kind of shapes me a little bit because sometimes like I like that the TCC has that chaotic environment that kind
Yeah.
of brings me back home. So, the boundaries are a little bit all over the place. So we just like navigate all of those professional development programs in different way,
Yeah.
right? So, but in terms of the teaching, that is also important because then, how our students are shaped by those different values and experiences that impact their learning for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like speaking of being in the classroom, like what first led you to teaching? Like so your background's kind of in sociology. What got you interested in like being like kind of a practitioner in teaching?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. When I was a student in SUNY Geneseo, I actually started interestingly as an English major. But I struggle a little bit because I learned English in high school and then later on, I came to the college, so that brought some challenges. So I was taking sociology as a general education, and that's the reason I always tell students do not ever underestimate any general education
Yep.
courses because you never know. So that can take you to that path for sure. So as I was taking a sociology course, then it was a time that I also wanted to do more. I want to do more for the community. And then so I was also looking for a job because part of me, maybe I kind of feel like I grew up in a large city in Turkey, in Izmir. Then I was in Geneseo. I like Geneseo, but I wanted to do more because then I would get bored once in a while. So to make it short, there was a job opportunity in our EOP center at Geneseo. So it was a tutoring opportunity where I became a French tutor because I learned French in middle school.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was such a great experience because I definitely challenged myself. I was pretty much trying to um, use my second language and the third language all the same way.
That's
And I
wild.
realized how learning is chaotic, messy, but at the same time it's beautiful. And
Mhm.
then I also get some confidence because sometimes it's hard to be a bilingual speaker or navigating the world with another language. But when I realized that when I was trying to tutor, French to the, let's say, Native American speakers, then I kind of realized that we're all struggling in the same way. So that kind of take me to the teaching. And as I said, my background's in sociology, and in my time, if you study sociology, the famous question is, okay, what are you going to do with sociology? I'm not sure if it's still the same. I have a feeling that it might be. And then I also realized that, teaching is a good path that I can pursue.
Cool. So then you're teaching in Kiyuka and then sort of end up following this path into professional development and DEI first in Kiyuka and then at Brockport. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, that was a really fun journey, actually. Um, I like as I finished my PhD, like all PhD students, I look for tons of jobs, but I struggle a little bit as I was, applying jobs and I wouldn't get a lot of response back. And then there was an opportunity at Cuca College for a first visiting assistant professor of sociology. And then I thought that it will be a good opportunity. And so I actually, got the job and I stayed in the Cuca College. So I served in Cuca from the very tough years, but also very educative years from 2016 to 2021. Although
Oh
those
boy.
were four
Yeah.
years, it was a lot happened in those 4 years.
Yes. They're like dog years. Yes.
Yep. Um, but unfortunately, then my department was closed. The good thing is if I decided to stay at Cuca College, I could have stayed, but as you can imagine, and there was not a lot of path. If I stayed eventually, then I would have some hard time. So I experienced teaching sociology to most like a criminology students and
Mm.
occupational therapy students. And an interesting fact, wherever I work, I always taught sociology of diversity, ethnic
Oh,
diversity. So
cool.
either that path find me or I found that. So then I said, okay, if as I'm looking for jobs, what can I do with all the experiences that I had? Then I actually found this interesting opportunity at SUNY Brockport. So that was the program coordinator position in the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion department. And I wanted to do more. So I kind of felt like maybe this is a good opportunity because I experienced what it's meant to be a faculty member. And then now maybe this opportunity is going to help me to transform me to be a professional staff. But it was also tough because I pretty much felt like I was restarting my career in some way. So, and then, so that's kind of how I, so had the opportunity at SUNY Brockport.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so then what brought you to us?
I know. That's the most exciting thing. So
It's exciting for me.
that was
Same.
a really great coincidence because when I was at SUNY Brockport, then I was delegated a lot of different tasks,
Okay.
and I like some of them, and some of them I kind of feel like, okay, this is just, not me. So, and I'm trying to be a little bit vague on that. But what I can say, when I was at SUNY Brockport, what I really, really liked the most, anytime I would give training or workshops to faculty and professional staff in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I realized that, so I was not the best fit for an administrative job, so I want to do more in especially learning and development. I
Mhm.
want to do more in advocacy and changes. And then um, the moment that I found the job about the coordinator position for the teaching and creativity center, I kind of felt like, oh, I can still bring all of my teaching experience. I can develop myself more in the program development. If I want to do more teaching and research, I could do that. But if
Mhm.
I want to focus on more about, the operation behind the professional development, I could do that. So it's pretty much like both jobs got married each other with program development and the teaching. So that's what I thought. And the thing is, I always heard good things about MCC. One of the things that resonate me a lot, it was years ago. I was a student in SUNY Geneseo. I had one classmate who transferred from MCC. And he told me that, like this is my third week at SUNY Geneseo, but I had the best teachers at MCC. So
Aw.
Oh.
that's the reason like that kind of resonated with me. So I said, MCC will be fun. I never worked in a community college, so that might be a good experience, and this is where am I.
Awesome.
That's very fun.
We are very happy to have you.
Yeah. Both as a presence and for all of the work that you do
Oh,
through the
thank you so
TCC. Yeah.
much. I'm so happy to just working with you. So yeah, I mean that.
So, like, we want to talk about restorative practices today, and this is actually something that you did about a year and a half ago through the TCC. You did like a brown bag lunch and learn on restorative practices, what they are and how they work in the classroom. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit for our 5 people that are listening. Like, what? There's probably more. We had like 90 views from the Christina episode
But you
on
know
YouTube.
what? We're going to explode in Turkey now because Melis is going to
That's
send this to her
You'll be
family.
international.
That's right.
Yeah.
uh,
Oh,
Sorry.
you'll be
can,
international. Yeah.
Could you share like what restorative practices are and talk a little bit about your journey into restorative practices and how you got involved with that work?
Sure. I would like to honor my time and Sonia Brockport for that. So um, there was a conversation when I was in Sonia Brockport about like what and how can we bring restorative practices as the part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And then during those time, so I had a very exciting task, and it was about to research some of the trainings and organizations, especially who are providing trainings in the restorative practices. So I had an opportunity to first went to Siena College. I do believe that Siena College in so in the Albany area, sorry, in the Syracuse area, sorry, um, they are doing a lot of work in the restorative practices, especially in the criminology field. And then later on, so I had an opportunity of creating a local organization in Rochester. It's called PIRI, so which is the Partnership in Restorative Initiatives.
Oh, cool.
And that was a really great opportunity, and I will be looking forward to actually expand that relationship as now I'm at MCC. So and I will get into what is actually restorative practices,
Yeah.
but what I can also say that what resonated me the most when I was in Brockport, Peary did a facilitator training for us in the restorative practices. And what was very beautiful was faculty members, so professional staff and members from the university police
Hmm.
all came together as a part of training. And I realized that actually I never had any conversation with a police officer before. So as we were
Okay.
doing that training, so we kind of focused on how we can actually see each other with a more so as individual we are without any other roles, without our hierarchies, like how we can create that trust and compassion. So when it comes to restorative practices in the training that I had, so it is a framework that builds trust, that builds community, and that's pretty much how individuals all gather together, share stories, and they get connected. And the goal behind restorative practices is to first create community before so a harm happens. Because so many times in
Yeah.
the traditional, you know, interactions or the traditional classrooms, um, we kind of know that conflict is gonna happen, but we don't really take the proactive approaches to kind of identify those conflict or repair. But what is really beautiful about the restorative practices, the idea is to repair to harm when the conflict happens. So how we can restore and heal those relationships. But I can go more in depth, but that's kind of a very, like a vague explanation behind restorative practices.
That's like such a great point, is that when, because ruptures happen in relationships between people who know each
Hmm.
other and people who don't.
Yeah.
And if the first time you're making connections with someone is during a crisis, you're never put, there's no relationship to like
Yeah.
build on. It's only the
Mhm.
crisis. That's a
Yep.
great, I love that idea. That's cool.
Yeah, I liked what you said about like building the community before the crisis happens. Like
Mm-hmm. Yep.
you're kind of creating this space where it's just like you're setting those expectations, but it's very much like community focused and like story focused and like
Mm-hmm.
as human beings, which I mean, it feels like it resonates a little bit with what we talked about, what you were talking about with how you grew up in Turkey, right? Like the kind of community aspect of things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. That's kind of what it is because then you do have that sense of community. And especially when we think about the teaching or in higher education in general, there's a lot of hierarchies,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Oh
right?
yeah.
So, and then the good thing and that about the practices, it provides a space where everybody is heard and
Mm,
acknowledged and valued, and we don't associate each other with that positionality.
that's great. So, can you give examples of what this might look like in a classroom setting?
Sure, I would. There are a lot of different examples we can think. Maybe it will be also good for me to tell a little bit about the different levels of
Yes.
the restorative practices. So when I do took the training from Peary, we also learn about their different tiers when it comes to the restorative practices. So tier one, we call as the proactive circles. So that can be, let's say, celebration circles, academic circles, connection circles, and those will be very applicable into classroom. For example, we do talk about community building in the classroom a lot, right? So as maybe first week or first few weeks activities, so it will be possible to create those circles. So let's say as a professor, then you can form a circle, and then every restorative practices might bring a different framework, but the one that I am familiar is usually there is a talking piece. I'm going to give a different example. Let's say right now I have my phone and my phone can be my talking piece, right?
Okay.
And then I can introduce this audience about why I choose this phone as a talking piece where,
Mm,
I can reflect that in the phone that I have, there are different dinosaurs and different animals. And so now they are cheesy, they are happy. Maybe I can reflect on that.
yeah.
And then how it really works in the restorative practices is as you form a circle, there should be the center piece where you can so bring stuff that are important to that class content. So let's say, Amanda, I know you're teaching in the geosciences, right? So you can bring different, rocks that are important to you or for that
Your
class.
favorite rock. Everyone brings your favorite rock to
Yeah.
class.
So, yeah. And then what you do in those circles, then you can say, hey, my name is Melis Kural. I'm the teacher for the Introduction to Sociology class. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm genuinely would like to know more about you.
Hmm.
And then you can create a very structured icebreaker question. And the good thing about the restorative circles, as you create that circle, then you have your talking piece. Then you can say, okay, I'm turning and passing my talking piece from left to right, and everybody has a chance to talk. Everybody also has a chance not to talk. So your
Hmm.
students can say, or just pass the talking piece, right? What is very important because especially, so our students, they're coming from very different background, different experiences, different personalities too. Some students are introverted, some are extroverted. So these sort of circles give everybody to talk more about, right? So that's kind of about the good thing, yeah.
I think I think part of it is like you're creating this welcoming space, and what you're doing is you're creating a bond like between you and the students rather than them just being people that are sitting in the room that you don't interact with, that you just talk at for 50 minutes. Like you're creating this connection between them, because when we have issues in the classroom, it's usually because that bond feels like it's been fractured. And if it was never there in the first place, it's a lot easier for it to just kind of break, or for the student to feel disconnected
Mhm.
in a way that like there could be difficulties that need to be repaired.
Mhm.
But if you spend that time kind of strengthening that tether, right,
Mhm.
that connects all of you in that space, I think that's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That creates a very trusted community. And
Hmm.
then because students also know that, okay, my professor is trying to intentionally create that community, right?
Yeah.
And then actually you make me think about the other tier. So the tier two is called as the responsive circle. So let's say there's a more structural issue in the classroom. What we hear the most is, sometimes faculty comes and say, I don't know what's happening, so I'm doing this group works with my students. My students don't talk to each other. I hear that a lot. And I said that's something I experienced too. So after COVID, students' interactions have changed and connections have changed. So you can create more responsive circles, say that, okay, class or however you would like to address. Like I care about you and I want us to engage as a learning community. How can I support you? What can we do differently collaboratively? Because in this way, students feel like, okay, this is our community. We all have
Hmm.
to take responsibility, accountability to do things better. So that's called as a tier two more responsive circles. In fact, I think we can use those more about in higher education. I have not, but I heard that there are some universities they call either accountability circles. Let's say there is a strategic plan about, different academic departments. So, and then there might be different hierarchies in the higher education. In some cases, not everybody might feel like they're being heard, and we can create those responsive circles to be able to help everybody. So, and the tier three is more about how to do like more healing and restoring circles. So let's say someone did a harm to another person, and those circles are voluntarily where so I can invite the person who did the harm and then person who was impacted by the harm. And then those circles' goal is to restore the relationships and to heal the relationships. So in terms of the question, so I'm more familiar about the proactive circles in the classroom.
Hmm.
That helped me more. But I can also tell some funny stories that happen too, if we have time. So
Yes,
because circles are challenging, actually. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
bet.
Yeah,
I can
so
imagine.
yeah, absolutely. So I was teaching to criminology students and I want to do a community building circle. And then I brought, my talking piece and then I asked students to form a circle because a lot of the students were more familiar with the traditional teaching method. So, they start rolling their eyes and then we actually, did a circle, and so I do believe that we kind of talk more about, in a more community building way, if so and I wanted to make them engage more in the content. So I had a reflective question in that week, and then I asked them. So the reason I'm saying that, yes, you might have some students who might roll their eyes in that situation, but you'll also have, one, two students who will say, you know what, I kind of feel like I was included. I kind of
Hmm.
feel like, that space gave me a chance to talk, and that's also important as well. So that's something that I want to work.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the same student who's rolling their eyes, but then also needs to feel like they belonged in a
Mhm.
space.
Exactly, because when we think about the more traditional, lecture-based type of teaching method, and by the way, I love the cat. Um, Yeah, so that happens a lot. Let's say, do you have any questions? And either same student might ask a question or there might be awkward silence in the classroom. But if we find a way to incorporate more circles into our, pedagogy, um, you can, as an instructor, reach out to the more students. You can do more assessment. Like you can say, okay, you know what? Maybe I went a little bit too fast. Maybe I need to slow down a little bit. Like you will do like a different type of assessment in those circles. So that's important. But of course, we might have one or a few students who may not like that style. And I respect that too, because so that's the reason we are trying different pedagogies, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. So what of what are some things that, so you've talked a little bit about the proactive circles. Are there other things that you do that are maybe like community building that are actually proactive that aren't, they could be restorative, but when you get to teach, like what sort of things do you use either routinely or like once in a while?
Sure. I can talk more a little bit about maybe in the faculty development
Yeah, totally.
I was
perspective
thinking
too.
that. I was
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
or in like a professional development setting, because I feel like it's still the same kind of community building
It
that
is. It
happens.
Yeah,
is.
Yeah.
yeah, we do. This is actually a funny story, but as I started my job at MCC, so, I also facilitate the first year faculty series and second faculty series. So I started my position around November. So I did not know a lot about our first year faculty back then.
Hmm.
And they were a very unique cohort and they make me grow
Yep.
a lot because in all good ways. Yeah,
Yep.
because a lot of them had variety of experience in the industry or in the
Yeah.
clinical world, but not so much about, teaching. And
Hmm.
one thing as a teacher, you always have to think about, or a trainer, like you have to know your learners, who they are, right?
Yeah.
So I actually start with a very basic but very funny question. I again came up with the idea. I explained about what are some proactive circles. And now later on, I asked them question. So how did you end up at MCC? So that was our question pretty much.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
then, back down with my co-facilitator, we kind of realized that, oh my goodness, like we had no idea because then faculty members told all about their prior experiences and we couldn't believe that some of them had two full-time jobs and then all the struggles. And then we
Wow.
realized, huh, maybe we have to take a little bit step back and we have to meet with our faculty members where they are, right? So maybe that's kind of something simple, but that might be a good thing to think about. So especially like in the building community for sure.
Yeah, seeing them as people first, as
Yeah,
opposed to just like faculty you have to instruct on
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Another thing I can always recommend celebration circles. So that can also help to change the little bit vibe in the classroom too,
Mm.
especially either if you complete a very tough module in your classroom or if you kind of feel like students completed a very tough assessment in the period of the class, right? So it will be really good to take a step back and then create those type of celebration circles. So that can be one, like that's something that I do a lot, especially with our faculty. Another thing that always helped me, everybody uses this a little bit differently, but sometimes people say affirmation circle.
Okay.
So let's say you completed a long class and maybe in the last 10, 15 minutes, you can ask a very basic question like, who do you resonate a lot with the classroom? Or what is one point that takes you with you? Or maybe you can find a way to incorporate your exit ticket into an affirmation circle. So
That's cool.
that's something that I did a lot and with our faculty that helps. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure about the, different students for sure.
Which math equation did you resonate with most?
Nope.
No, just kidding. It's
That's fine. Yeah.
Oh, you're such a dork. I'm just
I
kidding.
know, I
I'm
know.
kidding.
No, I do like what you were saying about celebration circles. Like, I don't mean to make fun of that,
Oh, no, no,
because like
no.
I was thinking that I need something that is like a nice transition between in one of my classes where we go from like teaching them how to use Excel to then using like Python and starting into robotics. Like, I want some. I know. I'm sorry, Amanda. Friction. No, I'm just kidding. I want to do something that's going to kind of like be a nice kind of transition for them between those two things rather than being like a hard break. So I kind of like the idea of like just taking a breath like collectively as a community and just being like, hey, what did we like learn? What did we resonate with from Excel?
Mhm.
Like, what do we want to take with us as we move forward into thinking about coding? I think I like that.
That is going
Yeah,
to
it
What?
be the
definitely helps.
intro to our
Mhm.
show. What do you resonate with Excel? That is.
I might need to, I will back you. I was even thinking about coming to your class if we're going to go in depth like that.
That's so funny.
I
Yeah,
resonate with the sum function on a deep,
oh
deep
my
level.
goodness. I taught you how to use pivot tables, okay?
I do like
Um,
pivot tables.
Yeah, I
yeah.
will need that.
He's a
I'll
very
come.
good teacher.
I taught Amanda how to use pivot tables for like TCC data. So like I
It's
think
true.
I can help you with that. Yeah.
Totally.
Um but like this is actually the class that I did the board game with at the start of the semester. So I feel like they're primed for like the community space because they're talking with each other way more than like any other class that I've had when I've taught this.
It's because they
So I
resonate with
just
Excel.
that's because yeah, they resonate with Excel.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm gonna behave.
Yeah, okay. Maybe. That's a lie. That's a bold-faced lie. So one of the biggest things from your presentation that I like walked away with that kind of really resonated with me was like the social discipline window, and I'll talk about why it resonates with me like after we talk about what it is.
Because you can
Um,
easily turn it into an Excel figure as well.
that's not why. But I felt it was like very illustrative of different teaching styles, and so I was wondering if you could share like what the social discipline window was and like what the different kind of panes of the window looked like.
sure. That's actually a very good one. And then to be fair with you, so I think it's something easy to talk about. What when it comes to the application, it can be a little bit harder.
Oh, for
And
sure.
so I'm just also cheating, and I'm just like checking from the presentation a little bit in here.
I was thinking about sharing my screen. I'm just gonna do that for our
Oh,
YouTube
sure.
audience,
Yeah, that
and
will be.
we'll have a this on the episode notes on the
Oh yeah,
website.
that will
Yes.
be awesome. And
So
I can always share more resources, like if anybody would like to learn more. So, well, a lot of time for instance, like if I can reflect about my experience in education, so the other day, Jeff and I, we were just having a conversation about like what kind of teaching style he had when he was in high school versus what are some experiences that I had. So, and I found myself that I'm more familiar with the punitive education method because I found that like in both countries, so there were more authoritative type of education. So what I really mean by that is when we think about the punitive education method is the two model. And I will use a little bit like a fun example that resonate with me. Let's say that, you're a parent and so you ask your, son or the daughter to just like, hey, can you just like help me with washing the dishes, right? So
or cleaning
yeah,
leaves out of the storm drain.
yeah.
That feels personal.
Yep.
So go on. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no, no, you're good. You're good. So, and then the primitive, parenthood method will be, okay, so if you do not help me with washing the dishes, then there's no cell phone. So, and that's what you do as a tool because then there's very high level of control, but
Mhm.
there's no support. And the problem about that, because it's punitive, then it involves some punishment. Um, you never understand the outcome, right? You don't understand the impact of that behavior. And then we have the four model, which that's something that I personally need to work on sometimes.
Yes.
You do for people, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's not good either, right? So, because that's the reason it's called as a more paternalistic behavior. So it's fine if I say as a parent, you know what, like I'm just going to wash the dishes and I'm going to do the laundry and I will just like do this and that. And that's the reason people might burn out. So that's not good. And there's no accountability there, right? So, and
Mhm.
I'm not giving a good message to the kid in there, right? And then there is the not model. There are some leadership studies. They said that some leaders can be in this model where you're irresponsible, and so there's no control, there's no support. Sometimes it can be a good thing. You might feel like if you are working under neglectful leadership, you'll say, "Oh, okay, no news is good news," and but then it may not be a good thing. It's
Yeah,
just yeah.
sometimes no news is like, what's happening? Will
Yep,
somebody please tell me what's
exactly.
going on at this college? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
That's how I do feel. Exactly. That's how I feel. So it's just me saying that, okay, you know what? Let's not do the dishes. Like who cares? And that's sometimes okay to do that too.
Sure.
But then we have the width model, which is our restorative model. So in this one, we're working collaboratively because we already have a good sense of community. We already have a trusted community and safe community. And we take ownership in this problem. We say that, you know what? I care about our home and then I want to make sure that, we just work collaboratively to find a schedule that works for both of us to just wash this dishes, let's say. So again, this is from a very simple example, but the way that I'm also understanding, well, so many these theories, they're also coming from the parenthood theories. So that's the reason I gave
Yeah.
some example about the parenthood style. And when you think about the teaching, it's a little bit different, but there might be some connection in there. And the reason that I brought about the authority in here, because like I remember that when we were in middle school, there was a rule that if a teacher comes, then we would stand up, right? This is how much there was an authoritative figure for teachers for us. And then when I came to the United States, that's something that I had to move away because,
Hmm.
and I said that how do I go to more restorative model? And that might be same for a lot of the students we have because we don't know what kind of teaching styles that they are familiar with.
That's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I
That's
make my students clap for me when I walk in. No, I'm just kidding.
That would be fun though.
Yeah. I've been clapped for twice in classes and I don't know why. Like I'm just like, why is everyone clapping?
because they're like, thank you for making Excel resonate
It's
with
like the
us.
stop. It's like the plane landed. We landed the plane.
I hate when people do that. Um, so
No, this
where do you
oh go,
identify Ben and Melis?
Mhm.
yeah, so this was so when Melis gave this presentation and I attended, like this was at like the perfect time for it to happen for me because I was dealing with an issue in one of my physics classes where I just had like some students that would kind of have a side conversation in the middle of class. And I was the kind of person that I'm like, well, if it's like it doesn't seem to be bothering anybody, so like I'm not going to worry about it. But then we were kind of in a space where I did have a student come up to me and say like I'm like having trouble focusing because of these side conversations. Um and it wasn't all the time and it wasn't the whole class, but like occasionally they would just kind of start chatting with each
Hmm.
other. And they were in the third row, like of this big lecture hall. And I'm like, you're not even trying. But I had students come up and were like, this is bothering me, I can't focus. And I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. And at the same time I was like going to this presentation and I'm like, oh, I'm definitely an enabler. Like I'm just kind of enabling things. Like I also, Melis, like I have to work on the for aspect of things
Mhm.
sometimes because I it helped me to walk away from this and think about it is like we're a whole community, like what can we do? I went back to the classroom, like we did community agreements together. And then I also like had an individual conversation with the students and I was like, is this helpful for you? Like to when these conversations are happening, like do you feel like you're still getting what you need out of the class? Um, and the student was like, I think I just need to move and sit somewhere else because like if I can't be next to this person, because then I'm gonna want to talk to them. And so the student sat at a different spot and like the problem was solved. Like so it I felt that was good.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like that's also the other thing that I'm noticing. The more that we build community, actually the problems are just resolving naturally.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
something I experienced. So it's a funny conversation because that's the reason I started. It's easy for me to explain, harder to do. So that's something that I always
Yeah, yeah.
say.
Yes.
But I'm in the line, like I'm moving from for to with. And but I can tell a bit like a funny story that happened last semester. So
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I know helped me a lot. I taught my COS course for the first time, college orientation and the success course. And then I spend a lot of time for building community and so I start seeing the benefits of building the community. And then there is one time, we ended the class and then one student came to me and asked, hey, I need to go to building 3. And that I was that close to say, okay, like I will go and then take you there. And then I realized that one other student said that, you know what, like I kind of know where is building 3 and I'm going to walk you there. And then I
Nice.
Oh,
realized that how much like it's important to do that. Maybe this is a little bit like small example, but so many times, so maybe as teachers, we forget that we are in so much in for all the times, like
hmm.
because like students need that, like we need to do this and we have to give those so situations. But I think like the more that we find a way to move to with and then create that community in the students, like students help each other, and then
Yep.
that's kind of a one good thing. Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
sharing responsibility
Yeah.
intentionally with students, right?
Yes.
Like because they learn a lot by going through and helping each other with things. Like
Mhm.
and there's a whole bunch of principles behind that in education where it's just like teach to learn and like being able to do that for each other.
Mhm.
but as an instructor being intentional about that rather than just neglectful about that. Like students
Yeah.
have to fend for themselves.
Oh, yes.
That's
Mm-hmm.
wild.
Where are you at, Amanda? In neglectful or
No, although sometimes probably. So I actually had a very serious thing happen this week, that I had to be more authoritative than I normally am.
Mm,
My classes are very, and they're small and intimate. I like to think of them as, and there's a lot of joking around, and I never intentionally I never participate if they're talking about political stuff, and they think it's hilarious because they can see that I have thoughts, and I'm not participating in this at all, and so they'll talk back and forth and I won't comment, except this week. So when I don't know if I told you about this, Ben. When I was
no.
on a field trip last Wednesday, we were coming back, and Charlie Kirk had been shot. Oh, you stopped sharing. Now I gotta adjust my thing.
I just didn't. Oh, did you need it
No,
still?
no, not at all.
Okay,
But
I didn't think so.
no, I just have like an area where I'm recording, so I have to play around. Sorry for people who are watching us on the
You're
tube.
just gonna cut this out. It's fine.
No. There we go. Anyway, so while we were on a field trip, Charlie Kirk had been shot. And then he died later that afternoon. No one had mentioned it. And we meet Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So Thursday, a student was absent, and he came back Tuesday, yesterday. And he was like, I was really upset that I missed class on Thursday because I wanted to talk about Charlie Kirk's murder. And I was like, and I just didn't say anything for a sec. And he was like, I really wanted to hear so and so's reaction to it because I just think his reaction had to be hilarious. And I was like, ugh, I don't like this at all. And I look up and I'm like, what do I say here? And I look up and I have a senior audit student. So she's got to be close to 70. And she's looking at me. And out of the corner of my eye, I can see this other girl in my class, and she's looking at me. And I was like, and then when they saw me sort of look around, one of my students was like, Colosimo has something to say, but she's not going to say it. And I'm like, I am actually going to say something right now. I was like, I got into this with both of my daughters last week, and I was like, look, whatever we do in this class, we are not going to make jokes about people being murdered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is a hard line. And they were like, oh. And it was awkward in my class for like a while. And it wasn't my favorite class, but I went home. I made it awkward. But I made it awkward because anything else wasn't really okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes, what I kind of feel like, Amanda, the whole leadership styles that we talk,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fluidity, right? So
Mhm.
because as teachers, like we know the more about the content on that situation, right?
Yep.
So and that I'm so happy that you brought that example because as we were talking, I was just thinking like we can have that restorative culture in the classroom, but sometimes like there's a boundary that in that moment that we have to take the control over, right? So
Yes.
Mhm.
it's something important to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. It wasn't awesome. But
Yeah.
but
I don't
yeah.
think you're neglectful either. I just want that on the
Oh,
record.
I sometimes
No, no.
so I think I teach
No.
the same way that I parent, which is that like I have very loose.
Now I'm concerned.
No, I mean I have very like, as long as people are playing nice in the sandbox, I don't have to legislate how they're playing.
Sure.
Like as long as people are responsible and accountable at the end of the day, like I offer people a lot of latitude. I'll give you a fun example.
Same.
So today I had students do a really kind of technical lab. I had them use AI in the classroom to like write HTML code, like, and they had to do like this technical geology place mark in Google Earth. And then I wanted them to practice it more. So I was like, Now be creative and make me a place mark of anywhere on the earth that you would like to make me a place mark. Show me a picture, connected to a website. And I was teaching them how to embed videos in there as well and to format them again using HTML code. I was like, find a YouTube video that has music on it that you want me to play in school. And I thought it would just be like a fun practice thing. Made lab twice as long because they were like, oh my God, oh my God. They were looking for music forever. They found hilarious things. There's something called an Obama like prism. Have you heard of this?
No.
I'll send it to you later. It's like basically Barack Obama's face like on a tetrahedron. I don't know why. All the kids knew what it was though. They were like, oh my God, the Obama prism. I was like, what are you talking about? Anyway, so like again, I think that's okay. Like they're practicing,
Yeah.
they're learning stuff, and they're also being creative. And I'm really curious to see what they selected for music. So
I mean, sometimes you got to take your hands off the bicycle, right? Let them ride the
just
bicycle.
let it
Yep.
go. But yeah.
Yep.
Thing else, or like any other topics in professional development that you're passionate about or excited for? Any upcoming projects, for us at the TCC?
Sure. So I always found out that it gets harder in the TCC sometimes for me to take just like, like charging my own professional learning and
Mm,
professional development. So first I can just talk a little bit about one exciting project that I
yeah.
have with one of our adjunct faculty, and then later on I'll tell more about upcoming projects for TCC. So Kathleen Delfonso is an adjunct faculty in the sociology department
Hmm.
at MCC. Um, and then, as I told you last semester, I had a chance of teaching a COS course. And then that changed my perspective a lot about how much it is very important to do more structured check-ins with the students because it's super easy to, like lose students as we go through the process. And that's something comes a lot from the first and second year faculty. So Kathleen and I, we have this exciting project. We are taking baby steps. So we are thinking about how to use AI to create more engaging reminders for the students. So
Oh.
a lot of the time I use passive reminders. For instance, let's say I have 20 students and then I realized that 10 of them did not submit their assessment. So I use a, passive, just like reminders. Hey, just, like the deadline is upcoming and then blah, 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 right? So Kathleen and I, we were just thinking how we can create more active engagement reminders for the students because right now we live in a world that I work with faculty. I remind them everything. I know that there's a big debate in the educative world about, oh, we should not remind students, but we remind adults everything. So
Hmm.
A thousand
yeah,
percent.
exactly. So we're just thinking about that. And hopefully maybe we will complete that project and we'll come to your podcast with some of the
Awesome.
results of our research. But other stuff that with TCC, so I know that, and I'm so happy to work with, Abby from our virtual
Mm.
campus in this project. So there is a program specifically in the Universal Design for All Learners. And Abby did amazing. So took a class in UDL, and right now Abby is working on creating that program and curriculum in the UDL to help our faculty learners. But I want to take the background approach for that, maybe more restorative approach about we want to have a learning community where we have honest conversations about UDL. Like what are some barriers? What are some challenges? What are some opportunities to be able to connect our faculty to the framework of the UDL. So that will be exciting. And as always, so we have a lot of the brown bags and book groups. And if we have time, I will be able to explore more and more. Yeah, for sure.
So we like to,
That's exciting.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
I like to ask this same question at the end. So you're 18-year-old Melis and you are in Turkey. And what if you could talk to that girl today? I even went back before we finished college. So what would you tell her?
I see that.
I know.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say you can make any plans that you would like to do, but definitely usually plans don't work out. It's better not to do any plans.
I agree with that so much.
Um,
Ben can tell you what two problems he's doing on like Thursday, October 23rd. He,
correct.
I don't know what I'm doing next week. It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that because it's kind of what I remind them, to myself, especially in the education, we always talk about that, right? So students are trained to make those plans and yeah, we create them like those curriculum plans to, the program plans. So that's kind of how we train. It's good to have them, but honestly, sometimes like I need to learn more about letting myself to go to the life because yeah, sometimes plans don't work and sometimes you kind of feel grateful that they're not working the way that
Yep.
you thought that they would.
Totally.
Hmm.
Oh, I like that. That's a great
Yeah.
ending.